Up and get ready to go all out.
George. Johnny. Here we go. Here we go.
That's a huge pass.
Great hands.
Whoa, look who just swooped in.
What a sight.
24 teams ready to go all out.
Oh yes, the time has come. Hello and welcome. Great to have your company for the Rugby World Cup 2027 draw. If you're watching around Australia on Stan Sport on 9 or wherever you're watching around the world, this is a truly global event. It is great to have your company this evening. A very exciting night ahead. I'm Michael Atkinson, your host this evening, and joined by international rugby royalty. We've got two dual Rugby World Cup winners in Dan Carter and Tim Horan, and Olympic Rugby Sevens gold medalist Alicia Lucas here to talk us through what is set to come, and that is the draw for the 2027 Men's Rugby World Cup. Alicia, it's a very special occasion tonight. I know we're all buzzing. How special is it for you? You're also taking part in pulling out the nations for the draw later.
Yeah, it's an absolute privilege to be here for the draw. As a proud Australian and a rugby fanatic, it is so exciting that Rugby World Cup 2027 is coming down under to Australia. And watching that opener there of Timmy and his acting skills, I've got goosebumps of what the tournament's going to bring. And especially after being at the Women's Rugby World Cup this year, it is just phenomenal what those pinnacle events bring to our game.
If there's another sequel to Mad Max, Timmy Horan could find himself in it. But the three of you know firsthand about the wonder and the power of Rugby World Cups, whether it be playing, whether it be commentating. Dan, you yourself won two of them. I know 2011 injury interrupted and got in the way of your ability to play in that final on home soil in New Zealand. But then to be able to take the field in 2015 rather, in England, how special was that World Cup?
Yeah, that was huge. It is the pinnacle for any professional rugby player, is the Rugby World Cup. And I was lucky enough to play in 4 Rugby World Cups, and there was some absolute heartbreak in those early Rugby World Cups that I was involved in. So fourth time around to have such an incredible victory alongside my best mates was a memory that I'll never forget.
Yeah, absolutely. Memories for a lifetime. Tim, 1991, 1999, very special for you.
Yeah, an honour and a privilege to not only just wear the gold jersey and represent, rugby players from Australia, but the whole of Australia at the time. And 1991 was special, the second Rugby World Cup, and to be able to then come back to Australia after that and see the explosion of young boys and girls playing the game of rugby was really special. And then to do it again in 8 years' time, so the 99 Rugby World Cup was I understood the enormity of winning that Rugby World Cup once again, coming back to Australia, taking the World Cup around the country areas to clubs and schools was really special. And doing the lap of honour, after this 99 final was special to see, wives and family and backpackers have saved money just to be at the final. It's a special tournament.
Alicia, as I mentioned, you won a gold medal in Rugby Sevens in the Olympics. You played in the Rugby Sevens World Cup, but just recently, the Women's Rugby World Cup over in the UK. You were on the ground and got to experience this phenomenal event.
Being there firsthand was one of the best things I've ever done in my rugby career. To witness such a groundbreaking, record-breaking tournament for the women's game was incredible. The atmosphere, the fans were electric, and to know that in a couple of years' time we're going to have that here down under is so exciting, ATCO, and I know it's just like Timmy said, going to inspire the next generation of young boys and girls to pick up a rugby ball, and that's all we want to see as well. Yeah,
it was great to see the Red Roses, the home favourites, win on their home turf as well. Let's take a look at how tonight's draw is going to work. There are 4 bands of 6 teams based on the World Rugby rankings as of Monday, the 1st of December. Starting with Band 4 tonight, the teams in these bands will be drawn randomly into pools A, B, C, D, E and F, finishing with the teams in Band 1. The 2 best teams from each pool will go into the knockout stage, and they'll be joined by the 4 best third place teams from those pools as well. We know one thing tonight for certain is that Australia from Band 2 will go into Pool A, Tim. How do you think the Wallabies are faring just under 2 years out from their home World Cup?
Well, I think they had 3 or 4 really big moments. This was one of them this year, 2025, where Harry Wilson, his skipper, said, no, we're not going to go for a draw. This is in Townsville against Argentina. So that's what the rugby fans want to see. They want to see a positive Wallaby team. Yes, they were disappointing at the end of season tour, but if this game, and also those British and Irish Lions, second, third test match, the win away against the Springboks in Johannesburg, first time in 60-odd years. That gives the fans hope of where this potential of this Wallaby team can be.
That man, Harry Wilson, will be joining us later with Wallabies coach Joe Schmidt after the draw is completed. We'll be able to unpack Australia's draw for 2027. Your MC for the draw tonight is Morgan Turinui. He's standing by with a special guest.
Yes, thanks, Akko. We're pretty excited here. It's exactly where the 24 teams will find out which pool they're in. And, of course, with a guy who we played in a World Cup together here in Australia in 2003, Phil, now you're running Australian rugby. You're best placed of anyone, really, to describe how big this is going to be for the country. Yeah, well, it's very exciting. And we got this close to the trophy in 2003. But there's a huge honour to represent Australia. But, there's no greater honour than to represent Australia at your own home World Cup. And, of course, going deep into the tournament. But it's not just about Australian rugby supporters getting behind the Australian team. It'll be Australian sports lovers, but most importantly, all of Australia will get behind the Wallabies for what's a very exciting time for rugby in Australia. So it'll be great to see the team go deep in the tournament and get right through to the final stages to get the opportunity to lift this trophy. Yeah, can't wait to see what the Wallabies can do and, of course, who they'll be up against in Pool A. Atco, a very excited Rugby Australia CEO, Phil Waugh, can't wait to see what his Wallabies can do in under 2 years and, of course, who they'll be up against on that 1st of October opening match.
Plenty of reason to be excited. Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Phil. We'll be hearing from Morgan a little bit later on. Let's take a look at those bands yet again. And band 1, naturally, by the nature of the World Rugby rankings, is where you're probably going to find the key contenders for a World Cup. You look at England, who've moved up to number 3 in the world, Tim. They have had a very impressive 2025.
Oh, they've been brilliant, haven't they? 11 wins in a row, test matches in a row from England, and outstanding. I love how Steve Borthwick, the coach, has got this style and brand of rugby now, which is exciting. Got some good young talent coming through at the right time. He's got depth, and you need depth in a Rugby World Cup. So England on fire at the moment.
Absolutely, they are on fire. Had a great Autumn Nations series. Naturally, World Cup prowess. You think South Africa, they've won more World Cups, Alicia, than any other nation. Are they the team to beat, even from 2 years out, do you think?
I think the way that their form has been this year, that they're still definitely that top contenders. No one in the men's history has won 3 in a row, and they'll definitely know that statistic, and they'll be chasing that 3rd straight World Cup. And Rassie has bled a lot of depth into his youthful side, and I think with another 2 years under their belt, they're going to be really formidable competitors.
Of course, they just took down the All Blacks to claim that World Cup victory in France 2 years ago. Dan, how are your All Blacks, in your mind, how are they shaping up for the tournament in Australia?
Yeah, I think under Scott Robinson, his priority through this World Cup cycle was to grow depth. We lost a lot of world-class experienced players after 2023, so he knew for the Rugby World Cup 2027 he needed depth within his squad, and he's been trying to build that over the last 2 years. They've shown on many occasions what they're capable of and the incredible rugby they can play, but they realise they're not at a level yet to go on and win a World Cup. So a lot of work to be done over the next 2 years.
The expectations for New Zealand in rugby are always high, but they are still number 2 in the world rankings at the moment. It's not just about the teams in Band 1, those top 6 sides. There are dark horses, there are entertainers, there are fairy tale stories right across the 4 bands. Tim, I know when you look at some of those nations that are going to contest the World Cup in 2027, I know you're excited to see Portugal back in action.
Yeah, well, they were great last World Cup 2 years ago when they upset Fiji, and I think, being part of the 2007 Rugby World Cup and then 2 years ago, 2023, I reckon they were probably happy to be there in those couple of World Cups. Now in 2027, 2 years' time, they want to inspire their country, and it's important for the growth of the game for Portugal. So I can't wait to see them in 2 years' time.
Yeah, beating Fiji, as we've just seen there, was one of the great stories of 2023. The last team to qualify for 2027, Dan, was Samoa, who have such a rich World Cup history. It might have felt a little bit strange if we were to play 2027 without Samoa there.
100%. And talking to a lot of my Samoan friends, they were really on edge of the potential of not playing at a Rugby World Cup, because rugby means so much to their nation. They've produced some of the world's best rugby players, a really proud rugby nation. So the fact that they've qualified, they want to not just make up numbers. They will be wanting to be the team that makes the big upsets of this Rugby World Cup.
Certainly carrying pride of the Pacific. And another wonderful story of the 24 teams in this World Cup draw is Zimbabwe, Alicia, who qualified for the World Cup for the first time since 1991.
Such a long time that they haven't been involved in the Rugby World Cup. So the fact that the pure elation and joy that they're involved in this competition will be incredible. I know there'll probably be a lot of teams number two, fans number two team that they'll get around and support because it's such a huge feat being able to be a part of this competition, and they will really relish the opportunity to compete on this big stage and do their best for Zimbabwe.
And also I think we talk about how many Springbok supporters live in Australia. So many supporters as well. So Zimbabwe supporters. So it's going to be huge, as you say. Might be someone's second team, and they'll attract some good talent.
I want to put you on the spot here, Dan. Are there two big rugby nations you'd like to see get put in the same draw tonight?
Oh, it's hard to go past that opening game, Australia versus All Blacks in Perth. How good would that be?
That would be incredible on October the 1st in 2027. The draw is not far away. We will find out what teams are going to be in what pools and who will face who in the group stages of Rugby World Cup 2027. The Men's Rugby World Cup set to be a record-breaking event. The draw is just moments away. Stay with us as we gear up to go all out.
Hello team, I'm Sean Maloney, joined by a couple of Wallabies legends, Michael Hooper and Justin Harrison, with you across tonight to go into some of the World Cup defining moments from across the history of the tournament. And men, welcome. We're going to start with South Africa, this juggernaut that has gone back to back. What do we make of what they've done so far, the men out of the Republic?
Well, I've got the balance right. I mean, they're just freaks. The thing about South Africa is since their 95 nation-defining victory, they're now presenting as the country and team most prepared to play World Cup rugby. They're just so good at tournament rugby. Power game, influence in the back line. They've got athletes coming from all over the world hoops. You don't seem to be able to find a weakness.
Yeah, the way the game is refereed and how they can utilise that with the members of the squad they've got and push every element of that is just, it's unrivaled at the moment. They've obviously got the cattle, they've got the belief, they've got the experience. It's exceptional.
I want to take you fellas back to 2019. I was lucky enough to call the World Cup final between South Africa and England in Yokohama. It was tight through the first half. South Africa coming to this game after putting down Wales in the semi. England destroyed New Zealand in their semi. But then as the game goes on, Mapimpi, Lukanya Arm and some of their flights start to get in and you're like, they're going to do it again, man. They're going to do it again. They're going to get their third World Cup. And they weren't to be stopped as Russie and his men rumbled home. Peter Seftotoy, how about you take it, Cheslin Colby? Yes, thank you, he says, gets away from a couple of England would-be defenders, streaks away to dot it down. What a night that was in Japan.
It was power meets power, right? And then creativity and flair of South Africa. That's the difference, this team now. They're just powerful across every position, but they're creative. They've got flair, athleticism and knowledge. It's just, and you know what? They're so well coached. They're coached very well.
And they're not short on talent. And one of the men who was centre to their win in 2023, Andre Pollard, the Iceman. Hoops, this bloke does not miss.
He wasn't even in the squad when it started and then comes out and the South Africans do it again. I mean, class all over. And, you know, they got out to an early start here and the All Blacks started to pull them back in, funnily enough, after they lost Sam Cane to the red card. But that was enough for them.
Well, they are well and truly on track to make it a three-peat in the Rugby World Cup. They are stacked. Top to bottom are the South Africans, and we'll be back with you across the rest of the night to touch in on some of the other iconic World Cup moments that include the men to my left, Michael Hooper and Justin Harrison. Yes, those two. Right now, though, we are sending you back to the draw.
A very warm welcome to everyone tuning in from across the globe for this much anticipated Rugby World Cup 2027 draw, and we can't wait to see where everyone's teams will end up. In a few moments we'll reveal all of the pools where the 24 teams that have qualified for this Rugby World Cup will end up, and of course that first match in Perth on the 1st of October of 2027. We can't wait already. Joining me to bring this pools draw to you are the chair of World Rugby and former Australian international Brett Robinson, James Slipper, 151 caps, the most capped Australian Wallaby of all time, Alicia Lucas, the Olympic gold medalist from 2016 in Rio, and two-time World Cup winning champion All Blacks legend Dan Carter. We've allowed him into the studio to help with this as well. Thanks so much to all of you for joining us. Brett, we'll start with you. Just tell us how big an event this will be, Rugby World Cup 2027 back in Australia.
Oh, look, Morgs, as World Rugby Chair, I couldn't be more excited. As Alicia said earlier, we've just had an unbelievable Women's World Cup in England, and to be, a couple of years out now of this iconic, amazing event, I couldn't be more proud. 24 teams now, over seven cities, over 6 weeks, 52 matches, a round of 16. World Rugby are all about creating iconic events like World Rugby that unite rugby. We are truly a great global game and change lives, and we're looking forward to another World Cup changing people's lives.
And James, over to you. You played in 4 World Cups. How important will that home support be for the Wallabies team?
Oh, it'll be very important, Morgs. And as you said, I've been to 4 World Cups and I've never had the opportunity to play in a home World Cup. So that itself is a massive opportunity for this Wallaby group going into 2027. What to expect? Every time you pull on that Wallaby jersey, you play with pride, your passion, the effort's going to be there. Dealing with the pressure that comes with the home World Cup, that's going to be telling, and that's something that I'm backing the boys to get over really quickly, because at the end of the day, I'm going to be that #1 supporter there at every game and supporting the boys. So I'm really excited.
Now, Alicia, we mentioned your iconic Olympic gold medal in 2016 with the Sevens team. Tell us how big these events are and how hard it is to be in those sorts of competitions.
Yeah, well, just like the Olympics, the Rugby World Cup comes around every 4 years, and it's the pinnacle. It's what you train for, you want to compete in and you want to be a part of. And I'm so excited that the Rugby World Cup is coming to Australia so that the Australian public gets to see how global our game is and how exciting our fans are, and they get a real taste of the ends of the earth that get brought together for this big global competition. It's going to be phenomenal, and it's going to be hard work for those that's going to hold that trophy at the end of the day, but it's really exciting.
Well, you mentioned the trophy, and Dan, you've lifted my friend here twice. Tell us what it's like for a player, but also for the world of rugby, this competition that's coming.
Yeah, Morgs, great to be here, and these Rugby World Cups are different. They are the pinnacle of any professional rugby player playing the game. They want to be involved in a Rugby World Cup, but not just professional rugby players, but also the young boys and girls that pick up a rugby ball and fall in love with our game. And that reminds me of when I was 5 years of age, the 1987, the inaugural Rugby World Cup. As a 5-year-old boy watching that World Cup, all I wanted to do was be an All Black and play in a Rugby World Cup. And I was really lucky to play in 4 Rugby World Cups, and not just the success, but also the setbacks and disappointments and the lessons that I learned really shaped me, not just as a rugby player, but also as a person. So 24 teams that have all earned the right to be here are all eager to add to Rugby World Cup history. So I know we're supporting different teams, but may the best team win.
Well, you referenced it, 24 teams. For the first time ever, we have 24 teams at a Rugby World Cup. Dan Carter talks about individual stories, collective stories. Well, there's many more to come of those. Let's take a look at the 24 teams. based on their world rankings as of this past the 1st of December 2025. The 24 teams have been placed into 4 bands of 6 teams according to their rankings, and let's have a look at those bands. The big dogs are there, South Africa and New Zealand, the finalists from our previous World Cup in Band 1, alongside England, Ireland and France, and the impressive Argentina. Band 2, the hosts Australia slip in there, ranked 7 as of Monday. Fiji make it through with Scotland, Italy, Wales and Japan make it into Band 2 right at the end of the ranking system. Georgia, Uruguay, Spain, USA, Chile and Tonga in Band 3. Band 4, Samoa, Portugal, Romania, Hong Kong, China for the first time ever, Zimbabwe return and Canada round out our 24 teams and Band 4. What an outstanding matchup we have right throughout these bands. Some teams just making it through. Samoa did it tough, didn't they, all the way through to repechage, and they did an outstanding job to make it through. But we, of course, want to know what we're going to do with those teams. What pools will they end up in? Starting from Band 4, teams in these bands will randomly be drawn and placed in pools. And you know, this is the most important part that we want to see about where the team you support ends up. Pools A, B, C, D, E and F. So one team from each of those 4 bands into those. And of course, Australia as hosts, they will be pre-placed from Band 2 into Pool A. The hosts are in Pool A, and James Slipper there confirming that the hosts will slip straight in there as Pool A, the second team into there. Before we get started with the draw, we of course want to acknowledge that we have our scrutineer here from BDO to make sure, they've already made sure that all of the teams have been placed into the correct buckets, and they will also be supervising to make sure that we do the right thing in drawing these out randomly so that you can be confident your team is placed where they should be. So now it's time for the exciting part. Where will your team end up in their Rugby World Cup pool? Let's kick off the draw. Now, what we will do straight away is go to the great man himself, Dan Carter, will draw out the 6 teams from Band 4. The first team drawn will go straight into Pool F. Dan, if you can pull out the first team, Band 4, Pool F, who will it be?
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. They will return to the Rugby World Cup via their win in the Africa Men's Cup Champions competition. The first time in over 35 years after last appearing at the tournament in 1991. Dan, who from Band 4 will now go into Pool E.
Samoa.
Samoa, we mentioned how hard it was for them to get there. The last team to qualify for Men's Rugby World Cup, with 2027 Australia marking their 10th appearance at rugby's pinnacle competition, having featured in every tournament since 1991. Dan, who's going into Pool D?
Portugal.
Portugal, their qualification marks their 3rd Rugby World Cup appearance, backing up from an impressive campaign in 2023. Pool C, Dan Carter, from this Band 4 cohort, please.
Canada.
Canada take part in their 10th Rugby World Cup, returning after missing the last edition in 2023. They will aim to replicate history in Australia by reaching the knockout phase, which they did in 1991. Who's next, Dan, out of Band 4?
Romania.
Romania will make their 10th appearance at the tournament, further cementing their legacy in the competition. And if we've done it right, Dan Carter, the last team to come out into Pool A should be
Hong Kong, China.
Hong Kong, China. They'll make their Rugby World Cup debut after winning the Asia Rugby Men's Championship, making history as only the 2nd ever side to qualify for the tournament from Asia. Well done, Dan. Successfully done there for all those Band 4 nations. Now over to you, Alicia Lucas. No pressure, no pressure. Dan showed it's very, very doable. So, of course, now your first team that comes out from Band 3 will go into Pool F.
Tonga.
Tonga will come straight into Pool F. They'll take part in their 10th Rugby World Cup, having competed in every single edition bar the one in 1991. Good work mixing it up. We'll draw that one out. This will be for Pool E.
USA.
The USA Men's Rugby World Cup hosts for 2031. The USA will appear in their 9th Rugby World Cup, having last competed at Japan 2019. Next one out will be Pool D.
Uruguay.
Uruguay return for their 6th Rugby World Cup after winning the Sudamericano in 2025. Great to see them back at a Rugby World Cup. The next team to come out, Alicia Lucas, will be
Spain.
Spain will take part in their 2nd Rugby World Cup and their 1st in the 21st century. After last competing at the tournament in 1999, a huge milestone for Spanish rugby, and they're very welcome at the Rugby World Cup in 2027.
Georgia.
Georgia go into Pool B. They booked their spot as winners of the Rugby Europe Men's Championship, qualifying for their 7th consecutive Rugby World Cup, 24 years after their debut in Australia in 2003. And Alicia Lucas, who do we have that will come out and go into?
Chile.
Chile go into Pool A. And of course, remembering that Australia are already in there. Chile, outstanding in making their Rugby World Cup in 2023, became the 23rd team to qualify by beating Samoa in a 2-leg playoff, ensuring a record 5 teams from the Americas will appear in the Australia 2027 lineup. Well done, Alicia. You got through the work there. Now the pressure goes on to the great man himself, James Slipper. Band 2, a lot of quality there, the rankings from 7 to 12.
Definitely.
Remembering Australia already done. The first one out will go into Pool F.
Wales.
Wales go into Pool F, the 3-time semi-finalists and ever-present Wales return for their 11th Rugby World Cup. Pool E, please, James Slipper, from this Band 2. Japan, they'll be aiming to replicate history in Australia by reaching the quarterfinals, a feat that they achieved as hosts in 2019. They go into Pool E. Pool D now from James Slipper, and he has pulled out
Scotland.
Scotland have played at every Rugby World Cup and are aiming to beat that 4th place finish they achieved in 1991. Pool C now from Band 2.
Fiji,
3-time quarter-finalists. Fiji will be aiming for at least the Final 4 as they return for their 10th attempt at Rugby World Cup glory.
Italy.
And Italy have not missed a World Cup and hope to reach the knockout stage for the very first time at Australia 2027. Well done, James Slipper. And now, of course, with Australia already being in Pool A, you're starting to see who your preferred team will be playing. And the Big 6 now, Band 1. And we go to the boss, of course, World Rugby Chair, Brett Robinson. Who is he going to pull out? Pool F, Band 1, the first team into Pool F to complete that pool.
England.
Is England. They'll be looking to replicate their success from the last Rugby World Cup hosted by Australia back in 2003, where they lifted the trophy for their first and only time. Pool E from the Band 1 cohort, please.
France.
France have been the runner-up 3 times, and after a painful ending as hosts in 2023, they are well placed to go one step further when they come down to Australia in 2027.
Ireland.
8-time quarter-finalists. Ireland are back for their 11th attempt at Rugby World Cup glory. They'll be a well-supported team. Into Pool C, Band 1 to join Canada, Fiji and Spain.
Argentina.
They've appeared at every Rugby World Cup to date, and their impressive current form has them primed to better their 3rd-place playoff victory in 2007 in France. Pool B, there's some big names left.
South Africa.
There they are, the 4-time Rugby World Cup champion. South Africa will be looking to become the first to win 3 consecutive tournaments after those outstanding successes in 2019 and 2023. And then if we've done this right, and our scrutineers will be happy, in Pool A will be
New Zealand.
3-time Men's Rugby World Cup winners, New Zealand, will be looking to go a step further than their 1-point final loss in France in 2023. All 24 of our teams are now placed into their pools. And, of course, the big names came out very, very late there. That concludes the draw for Rugby World Cup 2027. Rugby fans, you now know who those teams will be playing in those pools. Thank you to Dan and Alicia, to Slips and Brett for all of your help. Take a moment now to review those pools in their entirety and see who will be facing off against who. It's going to be absolutely thrilling in Pool A, New Zealand and Australia. I think the great Dan Carter might have predicted that. Chile and Hong Kong, China join them. Hong Kong, China, what a great opportunity for them in their first ever Rugby World Cup. The best team in the world, South Africa head Pool B, up against Italy, Georgia and Romania. Argentina very much informed in Pool C, have Fiji, Spain and Canada to face. Pool D, Ireland and Scotland. Gee, they know each other well, don't they? Up against Uruguay and Portugal. Pool E, France will face Japan, the USA and Samoa. And Pool F, England up against the neighbours, Wales. They'll travel all the way to Australia to play each other. They'll play Tonga and Zimbabwe on their return to Rugby World Cup. It's going to be an absolutely thrilling Rugby World Cup pool stage where we will go through those first 3 matches for each of our teams and see who can get to this exciting first ever time that we have a round of 16 at a Rugby World Cup. The top 2 teams, of course, from each pool, along with the 4 best third place finishers, will advance to the knockout phase of the competition, which means that every single match of this Rugby World Cup pool stage will be hugely important. So everyone, whether you're here in Australia or all the way around the world, you know where your team is playing and who they're up against. Thank you so much for being part of what we've done here today. That wraps up what we're trying to do around the pools draw for Rugby World Cup 2027. But there's so much more to come as we are under 2 years away from the Rugby World Cup that will be here in Australia. That journey towards Rugby World Cup 2027 continues with the match schedule, the all-important knowledge of when and where your teams will be playing. That'll be unveiled on the 3rd of February 2026, followed by pre-sale tickets going on sale from the 18th of February. If you haven't signed up yet, make sure to visit www.rugbyworldcup.com. If you're not like Dan Carter and getting free tickets, make sure you register for the exclusive pre-sale, your chance to be part of this worldwide celebration of the great game that we love, rugby union.
What a fascinating draw. There is so much to unpack, and we have some special guests in the studio who will be joining us to go through Pool A and Australia's opponents in 2027. The Wallabies